Get better, getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We are rolling now live. I see the clock ticking. Hello and welcome, everybody. Happy Friday to another installment of Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, myself included. I always smile thinking about how proud I was at how long I've been at this game and that I've got something to contribute to the aspiring and emerging coaches until I started writing this bad boy. And I realized how much I have to grow myself and how so many of the things that I struggled with as I was coming up in the profession, I still deal with. And the ever-present challenges of building a coaching business, building a coaching practice. Hello to you, Sue, all the way from Melbourne. 4 a.m. in like 4 o'clock in the morning. You're joining us. That's an honor to me that you're with us. Hello, Vaughn. I see you. I see you. So we're about ready to start another installment of Get a Clue in 52 for coaches. By now, you may know that these tips books, Get a Clue in 52, they're organized categorically. We have 5 categories for all of the versions. Last year, we did the Entrepreneur Edition with my co-author, Vipul Dayal. And the Entrepreneur Edition had the 5 categories of personal branding, business acumen, business ownership, leadership and influence, and work-life balance. And then prior to that, the original Get a Clue in 52 is just me and my jovial self, the cartoon version of me. And the 5 categories were accountability, communication, networking, marketing, and sales in no particular order. So when I decided this year to do a for coaches edition, myself included, like I said, I realized in the writing of the book how much I still struggle with so many of these things. And I reflect fondly on some of the things that I grew past and have gotten through, but I'm still looking ahead and how much more I have to grow, how much more I have to learn, how much more I have to struggle as I build my practice into maybe one day it'll become a business. So speaking of that, we are in the practice building section. The first 4 sections of this version of Get a Clue in 52 was we started off the year with 11 tips from self-promotion, starting from becoming a coach all the way up to like getting comfortable being called a coach, to getting comfortable telling the rest of the world that we're a coach, but with the caveat that we're always more than a coach, and we'll always be, we were more than a coach before we were a coach, we're more than a coach while we're a coach, and we'll be more than a coach now that we're coaching. That was important to plant those seeds within these 11 sections because we're following through on that now. I'm coming back to it in some of the points that I'm making in the final section of the book. But after these 11 tips, we got into 9 tips on engagement or enrollment. You tell the world that you're a coach, but you're really not a coach unless you have coaching clients, right? So in a private practice, we want to get enrollment in our coaching programs. We want people to enroll in coaching with us. But inside of an institution, we want our employees or our direct reports or our committee members engaged. We want to create engagement. We want to get people so excited about what they're doing, where they're doing it, right? That the rest is easy, right? The rest is a hot knife through warm butter. And well, what is the rest? Well, it's motivation plus accountability equals results. We have 10 tips in motivation. Once they're on board, once we have permission to lead, once they're engaged or enrolled, then we just provide motivation and accountability. Motivation plus accountability equals results. So we had 10 tips from each of those sections, 10 tips on how do we motivate people. There's external strategies, and then there's the checkup from the neck up. And we had 10 tips covering those 2 categories within motivation. And then when it comes to accountability, wow, wow, there's incredible feedback right there. Wow. Was that you, Vaughn?
All right. Yep, sorry.
That's all right. That's better than caffeine right there. I'll tell you, that was right into the eardrums. All right. Happy Friday to you too, my friend. You don't have to yell. I'm right here. Anyway, all these jokes come to mind. Yeah, but when accountability, like you add it all up, the 10 tips, and there's so much more that we can say about accountability. But if I could only say one thing about accountability, let me say this. Let's make it non-threatening. What would happen if accountability was non-threatening? So that's a high-level goal for this other little book I wrote called The Integrity Game, which I don't talk about too much in this forum because this is all about my personal brand, Get a Clue in 52, Coach Jeffrey, and all of that. But that takes us to where we're at now, 12 tips on practice building. And to review what we've covered in this section so far, we started off with tip number 41, which is to pay the fee of feasibility. Is this worth it? A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to build a coaching business. I have a coaching business. I'm working on my coaching business. And it's like, really? Do you? You're going to hear me question that a lot. I don't even call my business a business because I I think it's a practice. I don't have employees. There's often times where I don't even pay myself anything. I'm just, sweat equity into my own endeavor. And there's all kinds of other things that I'm going to expose throughout these tips. But the idea is, a lot of times people get into coaching for the wrong reason. They want to start a coaching business and fool themselves into thinking they have a coaching business when really they just didn't want to report to somebody else, or they didn't respect their boss, or they didn't want to be micromanaged, or they were burnt out on corporate, or some of these, reasons that sound really good. Like, I really love helping people, or, somebody told me I'd be really good at this, or whatever the case may be. The real reasons to get into this coaching endeavor is because you want to make money, and you think, right, you want to build a practice, you want to build a business, you want to make money, right? And it's not to the exclusion of those other things, but you have to be real about what it's going to take to elevate this to income earning at all, and then beyond an income earning hobby to something that profits after it pays you and covers all the other expenses and can invest back in itself and grow and scale. And I say get a Klu in 52 for coaches, myself included, because I've got room to grow. I've got challenges in everything that I just mentioned to you. So I'm not coming to you from the perspective of I've figured all of this out and I know better than you. I'm coming from the perspective of I'm still figuring this out, and I want you to be aware of where I'm at 17, 18 years into this game. So is it worth it? Is it worth the time, the talent, the energy to build this? Because when we get into a coaching business, as I'm about to show, we're not just coaching. We have to market, we have to sell, we have to product and service develop, we have to account, we have to pay bills, we have to collect. There's all these other things that need to get covered. And is it worth it? Is this how you want to spend your time? Is this how you want to spend your talent? Is this how you want to spend your energy? Moreover, what life do you want? How much money will it take to earn that life or buy that life? And then can you make enough money as a coach to get that life? Is it worth it? Pay the fee of feasibility. Get honest about what it's going to take to build this thing from a practice to a business, or a hobby to a practice, or a wish, a hope, or a dream, to on and on. So it's with that in mind that we move on then. If you get an answer, yes, yeah, it's worth it, totally worth it. All right, now you got to run it. Is it worth it to run this practice? Is it worth it to build this business? Okay, we'll run it or build it then. So now we need somebody in the position of like a chief operating officer who can make sure all the various departments of a business or a thriving practice run. So when I break this out, and I'm going to do this really quickly because I think I'm getting more fluent in it, and I'm going to share screen and let everybody see this visual that helps me of this org chart. So tip number 41 was the accountability of the owner and the shareholder. Is it worth it to, instead of anything else I could be doing based on what kind of life I want and how I want to spend my days, how I want to spend my time, how I want to spend my talent, my energy, my resources, what moods I want to be in on a day-to-day basis, is it worth it to build and run the rest of this? If so, then tip number 42 is the accountability of what we would put in here as a chief operating officer that reports to the owner and the shareholder, but then has these other 4 departments reporting to that office, right? A lot of businesses make the mistake of putting more than one person in this role, and they keystone cop and can't agree on decisions and end up business divorcing down the road, etc. Often, if we're building a coaching practice into a business from a hobby, we're in this box and we're in this box too. Or if you're like me, my wife and I are in this box, and then I'm in this box. And so I report to my wife and I, and it can get a little confusing if you don't have it straight. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and come back to a review of tips. If you decide that it's worth it to run, okay, run it. Get somebody in that box number 2, the chief operating officer, whose accountability is to make sure the 4 departments run, they operate, they run, they do what they're supposed to do. And then we go into the operations department specifically for the third accountability of these 12, which is, can I see a menu? And we talked about product and service development. Now, this goes back to the seeds I was planting in the original section of the book way back in January, February of this year when we were going through those tips, which is we're more than just a coach. If coaching is the only thing on your menu, you're going to have a hard time growing this beyond an income earning hobby. We want consulting on the menu. We want training on the menu. We want retreats or events or info products or keynotes or books. Like, at least that's what I've gotten to. And I've got all of that on my menu. Guess what? I still don't call it a business. But the idea is it's an accountability of any business to constantly evaluate the menu. Constantly doing innovating product and service development, bringing things to the marketplace, improving the offering of products to the marketplace, getting rid of the old inventory, bringing in the new inventory. If you have a business, your business is no different. You need to do that. Are you doing that? So we talked about that in tip number 43. Then we got out of operations real quick and went over and got into the first of 2 accountabilities in the marketing session last week. We talked about bringing information in. Bring info in to the company. Bring info from the marketplace that you're going to be operating in. Bring it into the company. Why? We're going to get into it today so we can get good information out. And just a summary of last week's tip, there's 3 C's that we want to study when we're doing market research. We want to study the climate or the conditions, what's happening politically, geographically, topographically, socioeconomically, pandemically, right? We want to know what's going on in the marketplace and if any of these market conditions affect what's going on with our offering into that marketplace. 2, we want to research the competition. And we have interesting conversations about, well, a lot of coaches will tell you, well, I'm my only competition. My only real competition is me. If I just do what I'm capable of doing, there's no such, yeah, true. Okay. But you still want to know what your competitive advantages are. How do you differentiate? How do you distinguish yourself? Why is somebody going to choose from you instead of somebody else? Where do you want to compete? If you're going to compete, how do you want to compete? What you need to understand what the marketplace is doing, what other coaches or personal professional growth companies or leadership training companies or management consulting firms, whatever you want to call it, what are they doing? And hey, Vong, is that you again?
That's on my laptop. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
It's not
I'm
just in your
about
laptop.
that.
It's right into it. It's all good, man. Like I said,
Yeah.
better than caffeine. So and then the third C, of course, is the customer. You really want to know who your target customer is, how they think, how they breathe, what they wear, where they eat, where they go, who else is selling to them, what's their self-talk, what's their pleasure, what's their pain, what do they want to get away from, what do they want to get closer to, what's their self-talk. I'm repeating some of these things that are very important. The degree to which you can understand your customer really well is the degree to which you can really get your messaging through. And that's really where we're at today. And tip number 45. So I'm about to read word for word tip number 45, but before I do, let me go ahead and welcome Sue and Vong to the StreamYard studio where we're rocking live, Get a Klu in 52. How are you guys? Thanks for being here. Do you have any comments or questions about my review of how we got to where we are before I get into, and you hear the music in the background?
We're on the countdown.
Oh, we're heading towards cue the music. But welcome, you guys. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Go, Von.
Oh yeah. Yes, it's a good day. I'm trying to figure out how to turn this thing on. My phone's silent, laptop's still dinging. Anyways, thanks for the review. I forgot, you said last week we compete on price, service, and what else?
There's the usual suspects. Price, service, quality, selection. I just have it ringing in my ears from, watching too much TV as a kid, and you'd see like the floor coverings or the window coverings commercial, like, like usual suspects: price, quality, value, selection, service.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very, Nordstrom is a brand, for example, that was really well known for its customer service and its customer service policies, maybe sometimes almost to a fault, where they're like, hey, we have such good service, you just return anything and we'll take it back, no questions asked. Well, people were going buying stuff from store A and returning it to store B, Nordstrom. And it's, it became a thing. They got so well known for having such good customer service that people tried to take advantage in a negative way, and they had to course correct. But there's people that compete on, In-N-Out Burger here in California, in the West Coast. In-N-Out, right? Very simple. They compete on simplicity and like really simple. Like, it's not complex. They don't have very many things on the menu: burgers, fries, shakes, versus other fast food joints where they're trying to create the value meal and the late night menu and the this and then that, and you follow. So one fast food joint may be competing on variety, but In-N-Out is competing on speed, efficiency, and on and on. So there's usual suspects. What's the selection? What's the value? What's the price? What's the quality? How's this customer service? Those are usual suspects. Those are good starting points to start to understand the concept of competitive advantage and differentiation, right? I believe, we as coaches especially, we want to dive deeper. Like as a coach, I'm not going to say, well, you have a wide selection of coaching in my coaching firm. What? I don't want to compete on price because I think I'm world class. So I'm more than happy to have customers walk away from me if they can't afford my coaching rates, right? So I'm not competing on price. What am I going to? I'm going to compete on value. I got all kinds of value add. If you hire me as your coach, I can put you into all kinds of self-paced study programs and tons of content that I've got, or group environments, or I can interview you and bring out your brand. There's all, I have all kinds of, you follow? So like, we want to be thinking about it. The coaching was growing. I remember at one point coaching was growing as a profession, like 18% per year. The problem is it was also growing in the same level of mediocrity, right? And saturation, like everybody's calling themselves a coach. It's unregulated, right? So now I'm not just competing with somebody else that has a competitive advantage. Now I'm competing with perception of anybody that doesn't believe in coaching, doesn't understand coaching. On one end of the spectrum, there are people that like understand what coaching is, don't believe in it because everybody calls themselves a coach. It's not regulated. If you got a real estate agent, right, they are more regulated than coaching. Does this make sense? Certainly a lawyer, a CPA, a fiduciary, right? Anybody that's, even a corporation that has bachelor's and master's degrees, those are tougher to get than coaching certifications. You follow? Right? So you're competing with perception out there, people that may not believe in coaching. On the other hand, then there's the people that believe in coaching and like are just afraid that you're going to find out, their vulnerabilities and so on and so forth. So there's all kinds of barriers that we have to get through. So it comes down to messaging, right? What we want to understand is what's going on with the marketplace, right? What's going on in the conditions, in the climate, what's going on with our competition, what's going on in the minds of our customer, so that when it's time for us to put information out into the marketplace, we're addressing those concerns and speaking into their listening and creating engagement, right? Because the whole idea is to get people interested in what our menu is. We want to develop our menu, but then we got to get people interested in seeing a menu. We got people to come through the door and be given a menu. Why? So that they can buy from us. Why? Because we don't have a business if they don't. So next week we're going to get into a next accountability. I'll go back to screen sharing so you can see it, right? As a matter of review, it's like I'm not just reading a tip anymore. I'm coaching, right? So the idea is tip number 41 was pay the fee of feasibility. Tip number 42 was, okay, run it. If it's worth this thing, if it's worth running this thing, then run it. Then tip number 43 was right here inside of the operations department. You want to develop your products and services. I knew early on that I was going to have to put other things on my menu other than just coaching, right? I started off coaching was the only thing on my menu, right? I wasn't even on my menu. I started off selling coaching for the person who trained me how to coach. I was selling coaching programs in their program and coaching inside their program until I grew out of that. It didn't work for me anymore at some point, right? But then we left the operations department last week and we came over here to the marketing department where we talked about info in. We want to do market research. That's the fourth accountability on the chart, which ends up being tip number 44 and Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, myself included. And so we want to bring information in about the market conditions, about our competition, and about our customer. Why? To get us to where we are now, which is info out. We want to be super smart, creative, sticky, catchy, engaging, emotionally appealing, factual, credible, consistent with what we're putting out. We want to be all of those things. Does that help, Vaughn? Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. Big answer to your question. Great question.
Yeah,
Sue,
I
what
just
do you
wanted
got?
to know the four.
Yeah. Sue, what do you got before I get into the word for word of it all today?
No, I've got nothing to add. Just a minute.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get into the word for word. It's page number 181, and you can tell right before every tip, I put an image of the org chart to remind us where we're at as we progress through the 12 accountabilities, or what I like to call sometimes the Klubeck 12-step program. Hello, my name is Jeff, and I'm a recovering businessaholic. All right. Anyway, here we go. On page 181, tip number 45 in the section on practice building, tip number 45 overall. Here we go. The fifth accountability on org chart 101, info out, is to create and send messages into the very marketplace that we researched to meet accountability number 4, info in. The measure of whether meeting the accountability of info out is going well rests not in the amount of information that gets out, but instead in the number of leads that convert to prospects because of the info that goes out. Create and send, the brand and the branding. Aside from the obvious that one is a noun and the other is a verb, let's be clear that a brand is made up of or taken down by the totality of messages that go out into the marketplace, whereas branding is the totality of action it takes to get those messages into the marketplace. One is content, the other is delivery. One is what you are saying, the other is how you are saying it. Recall the reversible questions we briefly covered back in tip number 9. Very simply, it is time to revisit those questions. The hard part, though, is that this time you must think beyond networking alone to include every imaginable way our marketing messages can be consumed. What locations, publications, social media channels, TV or radio stations, blogs, email signature lines, outbound voice message greetings, promotional products, books, sponsorships, advertisements, so on and so forth, and so forth and so on. Yeah, there's an endless number of ways, channels, and locations to get our messages out there, which invites more hard part in that we really must come up with as many answers to those reversible questions as possible so that we can always cook up the right message for the right situation. Of course, this accountability also includes the need to add to, refine, update, purge, replace, test, and improve our answers to these questions. But here they are again. Brand promises. What promises can you make people or make to people? What is the greatest thing you could do for people? What is the most pain you know you could get people out of, or the most pleasure you know you could get people into? Competitive advantages. Why do people choose you over your competition? What do you do better than other people who also do what you do? What do you do that nobody else does? Or what do you do that nobody else who does what you do does? I'm going to say those again. What do you do better than other people who also do what you do? And what do you do that nobody else who does what you do does? Tangible benefits. What do people get when they work with you? What material items, tangible possessions, or measurable results do people get when working with you? Emotional benefits. What do people feel when they work with you? How do you make people feel? What emotions or feelings can your clients expect to experience when working with you? Evidence, credibility. How else can I learn more about you? How can you prove or back up your answers to the first 4 questions? Where can I find samples of your work, testimonials, or references? Qualified prospects. What qualifies someone to work with you? What makes someone an eligible or ideal prospect for you? What questions need to be answered for you to know if someone is an ideal prospect for you? How do you know if someone is either super, potentially, or not at all interested in what you offer? Calls to action. What observable actions can you suggest to people you meet while networking? What different actions will you take? And by the way, now it's not just networking, remember. We introduced these questions when we were talking about networking and self-promotion back in tip number 9, way back in February, or maybe first week of March, right? Way back then, we said, hey, these are 7 reversible questions that I need to learn how to ask when I'm networking, and I better have answers to when I'm networking. Well, now that we're here in the overall practice building section of the book, and we're understanding the total accountability for getting information out, it's not just networking. Right? Sponsors, advertisements, emails, all these other channels and locations where messages have to go out. So let me say this again. What observable actions can you suggest to people you meet while marketing? not just networking, right? What different actions will you take or suggest when marketing to someone, networking with someone who is super potentially or not at all interested in what you do? Do you have something to give or invite people to? Do you have a way of collecting information or appointment setting? If the answers to these questions are not embedded in your marketing message, you will struggle to generate leads and prospects. Moreover, if you're not getting your marketing messages to the right people at the right time in the right locations, spaces, and contexts, you can expect to struggle generating leads and prospects for your coaching business. Truth. Most coaches struggle so much with this accountability that they end up buying marketing programs, hiring marketers, paying for leads or stage time or book collaborations, or making any number of investments in marketing that, well, don't work, do they? By the way, nothing works unless we do. right? Never mind all the reasons they don't work, including the fact that nothing works unless we do. That's crazy that I've got my book memorized like that, right? Here we go. What is important here is that most coaches are walking around saying they have invested in their marketing when the truth is that without a return on that investment, most coaches are simply a customer in someone else's marketing business. I'm going to say that again. What is important here is that most coaches are walking around saying they have invested in their marketing when the truth is that without a return on that investment, most coaches are simply a customer in someone else's marketing business. And cue the music. 8 more accountabilities on the chart. 8 more accountabilities. I know in my heart that marketing does not systematically produce a predictable number of qualified leads and prospects month after month. When it comes to this accountability, the closest I will get to calling what I have a business is when I use the word risky as a qualifier to try to be as honest as I can about the gambling I have done when paying for various marketing solutions over the years. For example, it was risky business when I paid $20,000 to the all-in-one agency that convinced me they'd handle everything only to go out of business less than 2 years later. So yeah, I got a coaching business. I got a risky coaching business when I invest in all of this marketing that makes me a customer in somebody else's game instead of a real business owner, on and on. Right? Back to the music. You nail one down, pass it around. If you are not convinced that creating compelling brand messaging and marketing communication systems that consistently generate qualified leads and prospects is super difficult, time-consuming, and risky, the next 7 tips reveal dozens more reasons why coaches struggle to build what I would personally feel comfortable calling a coaching business. 5 down. Is it worth it? Does it run? What does it sell? What must we know about the marketplace? What does and how does the marketplace know about us? And cue the music again. 7 more accountabilities on the chart. 7 more accountabilities. Next week, we'll take another one down. We'll pass it around. Then there'll be 6 more accountabilities on the chart. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, myself included. Is it clear to you that I'm currently and consistently struggling and expect to struggle with these things the entire time that I'm in business as a coach practitioner, in addition to everything else that's on my menu to try to meet my own accountabilities and scale my own jam? So there you have it, you guys. Questions, comments, riddles, jokes.
You go through struggles? What?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
I just keep a smile on my face as best I can, and and not all of the struggles are on the org chart, mind you. Businesses, they happen in business buildings or in home offices. You follow? So there's all kinds of things, and we'll get to facilities management in a couple of weeks, right? So next week is going to be all about convert, and we're going to talk about how people confuse and combine sales and marketing when they're super different. Even behavioral styles within marketing. You want one analytical to do market research, and you need a promoter to do market penetration, and then you need a closer, a confronter, a dominant, right, to do the sales. And hopefully there's a blend of skill sets and complementary skill sets. But it's fun going through it. Org Chart 101, the 12 accountabilities that any business must face, lends themselves perfectly to the last 12 tips in this book, but we built our way there. Self-promotion, then engagement, then motivation, then accountability. Great, I've got a coaching client. But I don't have a coaching business until I handle all 12 of these accountabilities that we're reviewing right now. So what else say you? And even then we may not. Comments, questions, as we're only 28 minutes in. We're having fun today. Every Friday I'm committed to having fun, by the way. Go Aztecs.
Fun Fridays.
Yeah. Comments, questions, or anything I can help you guys with, or anything that you found particularly interesting about today's tip or valuable in particular?
I think reminding the difference between brand and branding is it's always a good reminder.
I might have been going fast. as I reflect, it felt like I was going fast, right? Aside from the obvious, right? Actually, even before that, the measure of whether meeting the accountability of info out is going well rests not in the amount of information that gets out, but instead in the number of leads that convert to prospects because of the info that goes out. Create and send, brand and branding. Aside from the obvious that one's a noun, the other's a verb. Let's be clear that a brand is made up of the totality of messages that go out to the marketplace, whereas branding is the totality of action it takes to get those messages, right? So I might promise that I create non-threatening accountability. I've created a brand message, but now how am I getting that out? I'm getting that out on a StreamYard that I'm streaming into 4 different social media channels right now, right? That's one way I'm getting it out. I spoke at the Asian American Hotel Owners Association a couple weeks back in October, mid to late October, and got to give the Integrity Game keynote. I've got the Integrity Game book that people can buy. I'm at San Diego State in the classroom, and if students ask me what I do outside of the classroom, I'm happy to tell them. Right. So I'm thinking about what do I sponsor? I'm up for an award at Education 2.0 conference in Las Vegas later on. And when I get to pick the panel that I want to be on and what my messaging is going to be and what questions do I want them to ask me, I'm very strategic about what I want them to ask me with the stage time that I have so that I can communicate my message. What are my answers to these 7 reversible questions, right? All of that's the branding. When I go to network, getting in the car and driving to the networking event and being ready to answer questions, that's branding. But I already created the answers before I got there, hopefully, right? That's the brand.
Yeah.
That's the brand. So thanks for letting me set up. I kind of slowed down in the review of the difference between brand and branding. One is content, the other is delivery. The brand is the content, but how do I deliver that promise? Your brand, Brian Tracy taught me, your brand is your promise to the marketplace. And I took that lesson, I tried to expand on it, right? And my formula, B equals MP divided by P's times CA's minus J plus S. That's a mouthful. You want me to put that in the chat? I can make the comments, right? I can make a banner. I'll do that, but I'll listen for any other comments or questions you have while I'm doing that.
But I guess what is standing out in that first paragraph there is giving time and energy to concentrating on what actually is in that information that's going out. It's so easy to get caught up in volume and going, oh yes, I'm just putting information out, but how good is it? What's the quality of it?
Yeah. Well, that to your point, Sue, and I just so casually tried to say, right? Are you ready? Let's be clear that a brand is made up of, what's the parentheses? Or taken down by. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Or taken down by the totality of messages. So, I mean, we've all had that experience, I think, where we saw something, thought it was interesting, and then pop. You get an email a day, you get turned off to the brand. Or you see enough messaging, or you've been able to see at some point that people aren't able to deliver what they've promised, right? And we all struggle with that. You follow? Like sometimes you promote an event, and then for some reason, not enough people sign up for the event, so you cancel the event. You make a strategic decision to cancel the event, and you're running the risk that out there, well, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. Well, we had, you know what I mean? It's not easy. So I'm trying to be honest about how difficult all of this is. But not only are the messages that you're putting out there effective, but worse yet, are they ineffective? Are they repelling the marketplace? You follow? There's some commercials I've seen on TV. And I'm like, who approved this commercial? Like, who? Do you know what? I can't believe it. Some people, adults, were sitting around and like, yeah, that'll work. And then I just have an imagination it went from idea to production and execution, and that's actually trying to sell us something. It's a very weird situation. So what's the messaging? What's the brand promise? What's the pleasure and pain? that people are trying to get away from or into? What's their self-talk? That's why it's really important to do that market research and understand how we can speak into the listening. First of all, we want to understand what anybody wants. That's easy. Take a comm class, take a psych class, right? I taught my students earlier this semester. We know what everybody wants. Everybody wants, from Maslow's hierarchy of needs to, it's predictable. Human motivation has been studied. We want to feel certain. We want to feel safe. We want to secure. We want love and connection. We want to be significant. We want to be, we want to evolve, right? We want to help others. Like there's predictable things we all want. So how careful are marketers to speak into that listening, to speak into those desires? And you hear a lot of marketing coaches say, hey, sell benefits, not features, right? So a lot of people fall in the trap of explaining how their thing works, but people don't care how the thing works. They want to know how it works for them. So we have to be biographical when we're marketing, not autobiographical. I coach people on that concept. Autobiography is a story I write about myself, but the biography is a story I can write about somebody else. Now, if I can write your biography, then chances are I can sell to you because I know you well enough to write your story. So I should be able to sell to you because I know what you want. I know what you have. I know what you don't. I know what you need. I know what's at stake, etc. What else? Oh, you guys want to see this banner? Here it is. So I took what Brian Tracy, one of my mentors, taught me, which is your brand is your promise to the marketplace. And I said, well, let's expand on that a little bit and let's use some mathematical symbology because I'm such a communication guy that I use math symbols. So brand equals not just your promises to the marketplace, but in my opinion, brand is the marketplace divided by your promises because market segments. Because part of my marketplace is aspiring and emerging coaches. So what do I promise them? Right. Another part of my marketplace is human resources decision makers. Right. What am I promise them? Reduce cost per hire, effective, ROI measured trainings, culture improvement, leadership. So different marketplace might be an aspiring and emerging speaker, or a different marketplace. Now that I'm back in education, I got to sell to the PhDs in my department. Not like they're paying out of money to buy a product from me, but I have to sell myself into the department. So for collaboration and for continued assignment and for camaraderie, and I have to go and sit in my director's office and tell her that I want to be the most valuable member of the department possible. How do I do that? Right. So that's part of my marketplace. Right. So I've got different market segments, whether it's life service professionals or top producing sales professionals or HR decision makers or CEOs or Vistage chairs or right. So when all of the promises that I know I can make to the marketplace divide my market into market segments. But now the multiplication here is I'm going to amplify. I'm going to shout out from the rooftops my promise if I understand what my competitive advantages are. So my promise is divide the marketplace into segments, and I want to send a different promise to different segments of the market. I want to know who I'm talking to at whatever given time and pull the right promise out at the right time through the right channel to the right place. But I'm going to be fearless about that if I know what my differentiation is. If I know what I do better than everybody else that also does it, and if I know what I do that nobody else that does what I do does, now I'm going to be fearless in promoting. I'm going to send the emails. I'm going to make the posts. I'm going to accept the speaking gigs. I'm going to show up to networking events. I'm going to be there, right? But all of that could be jargon when we're working on it, right? So when I'm doing a 1 day or a 2 day or a 3 day assignment, when I'm doing immersion coaching on site with people, especially people that have invested in speaking on a big stage and they paid thousands of dollars to speak on a stage, and now they got to figure out what they're going to say for 10 minutes. I make them do this first part of the equation. What are all the promises you can make? How does that divide your market into segments? What's your differentiation? Okay, now with all of that in mind, let's eliminate the J, minus the J, because it's going to come out in jargon, terms we're familiar with because of the curse of knowledge and how close we are to our situations. So once we get all of the promises and the competitive advantages and the market segments onto the table, let's eliminate the jargon and then add slogan, add the S, the sloganeering. Let's come up with the phrases. Let's come up with the digestible, the believable, the credible, the lay terms that makes everything accessible, that speaks to the listening, that has the emotional appeal, that has the psychological attention gaining mechanisms, right? The sensational, all of that stuff, right? But we have to figure out what we're working with and then dress it up and then cook it and then put it into a speech and get it out. So I just thought I would share this. We're talking about info out. And what you're looking at here is my formula that I came up with when I'm doing full day, 2-day, 3-day immersive coaching assignments with people to bring out their brand in a way that we could package that in a speech or any other way that they want to get their branding out into the marketplace, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that now and hide that because I pay a lot of money. People pay a lot of money for it, and it makes the whole. I don't know. I just think it makes. I'm always looking for analogies and metaphors to make the difficulties of all of this more easy, more fun, more tangible, more accessible, more digestible, right? So that's my little branding formula there. Brand equals the marketplace divided by your promises to it that creates segments that makes it easier for you to understand what competitive advantages do these segments need in order to make a decision to work with me instead of somebody else, right? Let's get rid of the jargon and let's add the slogan, right? So I don't tell the marketplace that I listen carefully to their word choices to get access to their limiting beliefs, to understand how to replace them with empowering alternatives and condition it to the point of transformation. I don't say that. I say, hey, get a clue and we'll do a checkup from the neck up.
Yes.
We'll do a checkup from the neck up, get you out of your own way. You'll be in action in no time. So behind that is all of my expertise and all my training and my master's degree and my coaching certifications and my knowledge of behavioral assessments and all of that. But I gotta speak to the listening, not to my curse of knowledge. So we're talking about, it's relevant because we're talking about info out. That's the accountability that we're covering right now, is getting information out into the marketplace to this segment. I'm going to market differently than I'm going to this segment. I've had my marketing team work on media kits, and we want a different version. We want one media kit that we send to HR professionals, another media kit that we send to event planners that are booking speakers. We want another media kit sent for, you guys understand? So, and I'm still working on all of this. I don't have any of it perfected, and I struggle and I fit and I start, right? It's much easier to help other people with this than it is to do it yourself. Yeah, Juan, what do you got?
How often have you had to rebrand yourself from the past to now in your experience?
I don't say, it's funny because I don't use the word rebrand. I just say another brand, right? So the first brand was Get a Clue, right? Like, Get a Clue. That was my little boutique, coaching, consulting, speaking practice, whatever it was, and I didn't know what I was doing. I knew how to coach, and I started to make some money, and I put it all back into the business and just started growing, building my airplane at 30,000 feet, Get a Clue. Then the second brand that I developed, it wasn't a rebrand, it was an additional brand, right? Because Get a Clue still existed. But to your point, when you're putting effort into a new brand, this other thing's going to lose some energy and lose some attention. And then now I may not have as much time to cover the 12 accountabilities on the org chart. But to answer your question, Coach Jeffrey emerged as a brand for when I would white label myself for other organizations. So it was, Get a Clue was for self-generated clients that I found on my own, that I enrolled in my own products and services. But then I would also market myself to other organizations as Coach Jeffrey with an independent contract where I could receive assignments. So I would be part of somebody else's bench or somebody else's stable of coaches, right? So in the seminar industry, I was flown around the world for a couple of years on really great assignments from Australia to Europe to Asia, Singapore and Amsterdam and Germany and many cities within all of these countries. I was in Cologne and Berlin, and I was in Perth and Melbourne and Gold Coast, and I was in Amsterdam, and I was in Vienna, but all of that was as Coach Jeffrey. I never even used my last name in those settings. Does that make sense? And I was very careful. I would see other coaches in those environments that they would show up to these exotic cities, or they'd be traveling around the world, and they'd say, I'm here with my client. I'm here with my client. And I would always cringe. And I'd say, wait a second. I would never say I'm here with my client. I'm here with my client. I'd say I'm here with my assignment. I'm here on assignment. My client was the person that flew me there. But when I got there, the person that I was coaching was my assignment. They were the person I was assigned to. That person never paid me money directly, so I didn't call them my client. Does that make sense? My client was the person that was giving me these assignments. So I had the professionalism and the respect, and it was part of my brand, right? I wouldn't say, hey, I'm Jeff Klubeck with Get a Clue, and here's my client. That would have been dishonest. Say, hey, I'm Coach Jeffrey on assignment in the blankety blank organization. That had integrity. And then that gets me to my third brand, which is the integrity game. And I want more integrity in my life. I want to retrofit myself from time to time to withstand outside forces such as pandemics or loss of family members or anything I've experienced in the last 5 years. We're no bit different than a building bridge or a tunnel. We will get blown over. We will crumble under pressure tests unless we have structural integrity, unless we have strong foundation, we're well built and we're well maintained from time to time. So is it a rebrand? I don't call it a rebrand. I call it my new brand is the integrity game. And when we play, we win. Motivation.
Additional brands.
Yeah, it's another brand. So I've got, 3 brands. I've got my Get a Klu brand, which is my original small and micro business owner, solopreneurial, life service professional, the realtors, the lawyers, the insurance providers, the solopreneurs and small and micro business owners Get a Klu. Cheeky, very cute, very fun, very jovial, right? And then I've got Coach Jeffrey. I'm a hired gun. If you need a dynamic front of the room guy that can send people to the back of the room, if you need me to get to the back of the room too, I can do it all in the seminar industry, right? I've got tons of experience, was very effective, always increased the sales at every event, always got high rankings, 10, 11, 12 out of 10 in all of my coaching sessions, whether it was Zoom or immersive coaching. So if you need a hired gun, a white label, Coach Jeffrey is still plenty of room on Coach Jeffrey's calendar if you want a hired gun to go take care of an assignment and make you look good. And then what I'm really focused on, what I think is the long-term play for me, is the integrity game for nonprofits, associations, for clients like the Institute of Canadian Citizenship or Asian American Hotel Owners Association. We did the integrity game, for institutions, organizations, and get Klu and the cheeky and the jovial and the cartoony out of it. And I want to grow up and I want to play real personal professional growth with real dynamic organizations that are really committed to non-threatening accountability and the personal professional growth of their people that are working in organizations that can dare to find the intersection between what the organization wants and what their people want and lead both to each other and play the integrity game and get it all integrated. So that's an interesting, I hope I've answered your question. So it's not a rebrand. It's just, all 3 brands are alive and well right now. Right. And they all serve different purposes, and what are the real purposes? So I can make as much money as possible doing what I love. Let's be clear, right? Coach, right? I don't have to sell every dollar that comes in, right? If I'm good enough, then I'll earn assignments, right? I'll never forget when I called my mom, said, Mom, I'm going to be flown to Australia. Oh, Jeffrey, be careful. She said, oh, be careful. She couldn't say congratulations, Jeff. That's awesome. You must have worked really hard to become a really amazing coach, that somebody's going to fly you and pay you for your food and your airfare and your trip, and then compensation to actually do what you love. You would do it for free, you idiot. And you're getting paid and flown around the world to do it, right? Anyway, very funny. She'd go, be careful. Oh, be careful. It's a long way.
They might eat you.
I heard there's big spiders out there. Which there are, by the way. But I'll never forget when it's like, wait a second, wow, I've been pushing this boulder uphill and now I am good enough. I'm good enough, where not only good enough to be flown and trusted, but somebody's going to make money on me, because guarantee you whatever the person paid for the coaching is a hell of a lot more than what I'm getting paid to go coach. Because the company has overhead. The company had to pay for that, right? So how cool is that? And guess what? I'm happy to take a lesser fee from a white labeled partner, because I don't have the cost of client acquisition that they have. It costs money to come up with their branding messages, to fill their seminar, the hotel room with, 150 people that they convert, 20 to 50 people into. I mean, that's a lot of overhead. They're flying around. There's equipment. There's all kinds of stuff. They had to pay for all of that to acquire their client. Right. So those coaches out there that are building your practice, that are taking assignments for other people, don't play the game where like, well, I'm doing all the work. How come they're taking 80% of the money? Don't do that. You're not doing all the work. You're just doing the coaching. The rest of the work is 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 12 more accountabilities. You take one. That's the work, is making sure the whole business runs and that there's people for you to coach it all. So be grateful that you're a good enough coach to get the assignment. Stop holding out your hand with a sense of entitlement, because if you can fill the room yourself, and if you can send somebody to the back of the room, and if you've got the salesperson, the customer service, and the order forms, and the fulfillment mechanisms, and the errors and omissions and insurance, and the reputation management stuff when people complain about you online, and you can do all of that, and then pay yourself 100% of the coaching fee, right on. But let's be honest about how much time, energy, talent, and investment it takes to cover the other accountabilities on an org chart, and how lucky any of us are to be compensated at all for doing what we love, which is helping people because we're good at it, because I'm a good listener, and all these reasons we got into the game in the first place. Trying to be honest. And I'll just do one last screenshot here just to make sure people understand and get a visual. But what I'm really talking about is, and we're going to get there in a couple weeks, coaching is this piece right here. That's this piece, and I'm trying to be honest about the rest of it. You follow? Coaching, like when you actually are coaching somebody, all you're doing is customer service. You're delivering to somebody what they paid for, but they have to know what's on the menu. You have to know about them to get the right messaging to them. And next week, we're going to talk about converting them into a customer. Then you service them. Then you actually coach them, right? So people are showing up and getting assignments. Oh, I don't know what I just did there. People are showing up and getting assignments handed to them. And all they got to do is this piece. And then they want more money, or they want to then take the client for themselves. These are some of the ills that happen in the business, right? It's happened with me where I've introduced somebody that I've trained and I've brought on as an independent contractor. I sold the project, brought them on the project, and then the client wants to go around me and go to the person, and now the person's conflicted because they think they can make a little bit more, and the relationship is on the line. And you really need to be clear about the totality of work it takes to acquire a client, right? The totality of work it takes to acquire a client. But money coaches just think, well, I'm a good coach. I like helping people. I'm a really good listener. I read some good books. I went through my coach's training. That's just this piece right here. That's all that is. It's just one of 12 accountabilities. And if you took a test and there's 12 questions, you only got one of them right, you would fail every day of the week. If you only got 1 out of 12 correct, you would fail. So what I'm trying to do is make sure you can earn at least a C or a B in this game to stay in it, right? Trying to get super real about all of the realities. And I'm a little bit confident, I'm a little bit cynical, I'm a little bit tongue-in-cheeky, but that's just to cover up like all of the pain that I've endured in my 17, 18 years building this thing. And I'm a lot further along than most people, but be clear, be super clear. Like all 12 accountabilities, I'm working on them. I'm working on it. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. And that's the truth. That's the absolute truth. What else? Last call, guys. Comments, questions, jokes, riddles, expressions of gratitude, haikus, limericks.
I got one.
Yeah,
what do you got?
It's not a joke. It's more just how you're not sick anymore, right? Good.
Not terribly. There's still remnants, right? But like the really annoying phase is gone. But there's still clear stuff out of the chest and still blow the nose at times. But it's not like the tough to swallow, sensation in the throat, or I don't feel the need to Dayquil or NyQuil to get through the night or the day. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I need anything. Water is good, and my diet's good. My energy's always been good. Nothing's thrown my energy off. But yeah, I'm less sick than I was last week and than I was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Anything else? Last call then. Get a Clue in 52 is wrapping up. Tip number 45, we want to send info out into the marketplace so people know that we've got stuff to buy, and hopefully we do it in a way that compels them to learn more about it and get into our sales funnel so we have a chance at converting them, which we'll talk about next week. Any other comments, questions, jokes, riddles, poems, haikus, limericks, expressions of gratitude before we sign off for today?
Yeah, just really, really good, because I think what I was thinking, it forces us to ask the questions of ourselves. Am I XYZ? As we pull that chip apart.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do this. It force you to ask questions of yourselves. If you'll humor me for just a second, we're in the middle of on campus at San Diego State, and I'm always proud to communicate my affiliation and relationship to San Diego State and teaching there, and being back on campus has so many wonderful benefits. But it's funny because we're started persuasive speeches, okay, and what happens every time with college students is they procrastinate, they're late, they miss deadlines, they send emails, they fall on swords, they come up with excuses. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, okay. So I just want to say this, that I'm going to read this this is one of the best emails I've ever gotten, right? And it's on the heels of Sue, you saying, I forced you. Are you ready? Here we go. Morning, Jeff. It is blank. I'll eliminate the name to protect the innocent. Hello, Jeff. It is student from your 8 a.m. Com 103 class, also known as the most self-absorbed freshman at San Diego State University. My last topic sucked. It was terrible. I know now what I really want to talk about. You, and why I hate you, Jeffrey Klubeck. I think I hate you because you are the best professor I have met. I have read your page on ratemyprofessor.com. You are the most real one I have met because you care so much about us students. I hate you because you won't let us take the easy way out. I hate you because you take this persuasive speech seriously. You are the only one ensuring that our speeches have a purpose from what I have heard. I hate you because you make us question ourselves. I talked to a friend of mine, student, and other student, who has your afternoon class. She turned in her speech 14 minutes late on Monday. She turned in her speech 14 minutes late, and on Monday she mentioned how it felt like you were talking directly to her when addressing the class about the feeling they ran out of time. I paraphrased a little bit there. No teacher I have met connects to students the way you do. Here's my point. Why we need more teachers like you in class, real challenging professors that students can really hate. And then he goes on, anyway, there's no way I can present today. My outline is just a bunch of rambling right now. If you make me present, I won't show up to class. This is like the worst email ever written. I don't know what I'm trying to do. Maybe not failing communication. I can't keep working on it tonight. I have a million things to do, so I'm going to take a 0 for the outline, but the speech will be awesome. I just can't go today. If it's going to be cool, I just need to put in more time. If you don't buy it, that's fine. So this it totally falls on the sword. Knows he's trying to sell. Please have mercy on me. Kissing my butt thoroughly, but in a kind of sincere way.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, that's awesome.
I thought it was just funny to read. So I replied back to him, student, you will speak on the 27th. Please be in class in the meanwhile to support and learn from your classmates. Please do research to find evidence to support any arguments you make about good and bad professors, the problem, and why so many professors fail to care for or connect with students, barriers, and what specifically, in addition to taking Klubeck's class, students can do to protect themselves from the problem. Do not take a 0 on the outline, quote unquote. You cannot deliver a speech without submitting an outline. Do the work. You will thank me for it again later in life. Love, the hated one. All right.
Wow.
So I just wanted, I thought it was fun to share that. I'm really, years ago, before my retirement, 10 years from now, if I get an email like that, I might have reacted a totally different way. It's just, I'm on the planet to help people. And I'm blessed to have a lot of different channels and forums to send some goodness out into the world. And as jovial and as jackassy or silly as I am going to ask you to question yourselves. I'm not going to let you take the easy way out. Nobody takes a 0. You do the work, and no Aztecs left behind. Not my clients, not my customers, not my vendors, not my assignments, not my students, not my family. No Aztecs left behind. Nobody left behind. So it's serious stuff. That's why I try to package it all in the casual Friday silliness that I do. And thank you guys for being here and letting me share that one with you. It's
I love it.
Yeah, sometimes it's a real treat to be me. Other times I struggle, and that's just the truth. All right, you guys. Anything else for Get a Klu in 52? All right. We'll see you guys next week when we get into tip number 46, which is convert. Thank you guys for being here and making it dynamic and interactive for me. I hope those of you out there that are watching the replay or chiming in for a minute or two are getting all the value that we're trying to put into it. Thank you for supporting Get a Klu in 52. We'll see everybody next week.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.